Today we're talking about two of the biggest struggles that you will face as a gentleman. The struggle of your focus, of where your focus needs to be on yourself versus the bigger picture. Hope you join me today as we dive into the 6th episode of the Lionhearted Knight podcast, where we are striving to make better men.
The Lionhearted Knight. The making of men.
Hi, I'm Tori. Welcome to the 6th episode of the Lionhearted Knight podcast. Today, I have a topic that I felt was kind of a good segue from previous discussions, and this is probably one of the biggest struggles you'll face as a gentleman. A necessary struggle, but a struggle nonetheless. And it really comes down to 2 points of focus. Focusing on yourself and focusing on something bigger than you, the big picture of what life is really all about. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So the first part, focusing on yourself, it's something that's needed. When we focus on ourselves as men, we look for ways to improve, ways that we can become better, ways that we have fallen short, and we understand that there is necessity, there is need, there is requirement for improvement, whatever it may be, whatever area it may be, as a husband, as a father, as an employee, as a business owner, as a son or a grandson, or in some cases maybe as a minister in church or as a youth leader, or whatever the case may be, wherever you're at, whatever roles you may be filling, as a young man on your job, as the obligations that you feel, you look for ways to improve, and that's needed. You should never be satisfied with mediocre, with things are okay just coasting along. As men, it's in our nature to want to improve, to solve problems, and a problem is something that needs fixed, and a lot of times problems can be fixed by improving ourselves, the situation, whatever it may be. And so improving, growing, in another way of putting it, growing into something that we weren't before, growing into more maturity, growing into more authority, growing into more of a man than what we were previously. That's really what the whole gist of this podcast is to grow as men, as young men, wherever you're at in life, whatever your age may be, there's room to improve, to grow, to become better. And as part of that process, it involves learning things. I have realized the older I get in life that every day there's something I can learn from watching other people, from looking at my mistakes, my failures, from looking at my own history. There are things that I can learn from, things that I can benefit from knowing, education-wise, experience. All of these different things play a part. They play a role. Every one of them are important. They're necessary. And learning is just continuing that. Learning is recognizing what I don't know. Learning is taking it to expand my capabilities, my abilities, my understanding. And so learning is also a very significant aspect of that. And with that, as we begin to get more experience, more understanding, more knowledge, as we have more people relying on us, as we have a family relying upon us, we begin to want to earn more. Not just money, but especially money. We want to earn the respect of others. We want to earn the finances that we need to provide for our family, not just the absolute necessities, but to provide them a space for growth, to provide them a safe environment, to provide them with the joys and comforts that we enjoy, or that maybe we didn't have, or perhaps even things that we did have. But we seek to take these areas, the improvement and growing and learning and earning, in order to focus on ourselves. And that's not a bad thing at all. It's necessary to become better men. But then we see the struggle. We see the harsh reality of life that if we're selfish in our focus, if we only focus on what can make us better, on only what can help us, then we begin to hurt those around us. And as we talked about in the last episode, that's something that a gentleman cannot be okay with. We never intentionally hurt those around us unless it is a necessary action to protect other people. So, and to qualify that just a little bit more, we would only seek to hurt the enemies of those that are helpless, of those that we love. And even then, we don't get carried away in it. We don't take pleasure in causing others hurt and pain, even if they created hurt and pain for others. And so we find ourselves at an impasse. We find ourselves looking for ways to be the men that we need to be, seeking to focus on ourselves, to focus on what we need to focus on within ourselves, but then also understanding it's not all about me. I have to have the understanding that there is more to this life than me. In my perspective, in my case, it starts with God. I recognize, I understand that any logic, any true explanation of the world around me cannot just be happenstance. It's impossible for all of this to just be random. That there's no way it could ever possibly exist in a random state, in a random coincidence. And so understanding that there's a God, it allows me to realize there's something bigger than myself, to serve something bigger than me. And that also puts into perspective helping others. Now, me as a Christian, I live by the Bible when it says that whatsoever you've done unto the least of these, you've done unto me. And so whenever I try to help the weak, the helpless, the hopeless, I understand it is serving the bigger picture. It's doing a service unto God. And that's not the entirety of it, but it makes me understand I'm not the center of it all. I'm not the focal point of life, even my own life. I'm not at the center of it. And having that understanding, having that realization, then leads to other things, such as sacrifice. If it came down to it, if there was only enough to fix one sandwich in the house, and it was either me or one of my children to be the last ones to eat, I'm going to forgo that. I'm going to sacrifice that for them in hopes that something will change, that will turn around. But if not, I am going to be willing to give up, to sacrifice, to do what I need to do in order to provide for them. And as a parent, a lot of times as a father, you get to that stage to where you have to sacrifice something, your time, your effort, your energy, your wants, your desires, in order to provide. As a leader, that happens a lot. You have to sacrifice something of yourself, something that you want, in order to provide for others. You have to sacrifice your comfort, at times your sleep. Whatever the case may be, you understand the need for sacrifice because it's bigger than you. It's more than just what I want. Sure, I would love to sleep in every morning, but I understand I can't. I've got commitments, I've got obligations, I've got a family to take care of. I have a life that I need to live because I have a God that I need to serve, that I want to please. It becomes bigger than me. And with those understandings, with those actions comes a commitment, a dedication. That even when I don't want to, I'm going to get up for work in the morning anyways. Even when I'm tired or I didn't get enough sleep or whatever the situation or scenario may be, I'm going to stick to it. Not because I feel like it, because most of the time you won't. When it comes to the things you need to do, you will not feel like it more often than you do feel like it. And that's a mindset that I have to have for the commitments that I'm going to keep, because I'm going to be a man of my word. I'm going to be a man of integrity. I'm going to be a man of honesty. I'm going to be a man of compassion, and I am going to be a man of commitment, of faithfulness to my wife, to my children, to my church, to my God. I will be a man that is committed, that is faithful, that is steady, that is strong. Not because I'm everything, not because I'm the center, but because that's what I need to be. That's what I want to be. I want to be that foundation in my family that first is God, but then it's my place, it's my role. Not to diminish them in the least, but to enable them, to help them, to strengthen them in every way that I can as a human. There's limitations. There's some things I can't do, that I can't provide, but I'm going to provide everything that I can that is reasonable. So then understanding the focus on yourself and seeing the bigger picture, focusing on something bigger than you, both are needed. Balance is a must. We have to learn to find balance. And it's easy to become imbalanced, working overtime at work, striving to provide to make the payment for the mortgage, or to buy the car, or to have the car repaired, to do what needs to be done. Having that commitment is necessary, but I have to keep it balanced, that I don't let it become the primary. I have to prioritize prioritizing. And what I mean by that is I have to learn to keep things in priority. The important things I have to keep as the important things. I have to treat them as the important things. There is a story that I've often referred back to and think of in my own personal life, of a college professor. And he gets a jar, a glass jar, a large gallon jar, and he fills it with some rather large rocks, fist-sized rocks. And he asks the class, is the jar full? Of course, at first they all respond, of course it is. Yes, it's full. And then he begins to add pebbles to it and to fill in the gaps and the cracks where the large rocks did not fill. And again he asks them, is it full? And then some, hesitant to respond, don't, and others, oh yes, now it is full. Then he begins to pour in sand into the jar. Once that gets to the top of overflowing, he asks again, is the jar full? Now everyone is hesitant. It looks full, it seems full, but is it? And to answer the question, he pours out water into the jar and fills in even where the sand cannot. Having the understanding that there's a lot more than meets the eye. But then he begins to explain to them that these are the things of life. The water is the inconsequential things, the things that mean nothing. They're frivolous. They can take up space, but they're not big. They're very small, minute things. But if the jar were to be filled first with water, or even sand, which is something a bit more significant, the joy and entertainment that we can get out of life, that we need those things. We need that time to rekindle the fire within our soul, to keep from being burnt out. We need those smaller things, but we have to make room for the pebbles as well, the jobs, the obligations to others, the things that we have committed ourselves to. But if we put all of those things first, if we make them the first thing that we put into our lives, then the bigger things, family, God, don't have room. There's no space for them. And so learning to prioritize, it must be a priority to prioritize. You have to do that. You have to do that before you go adding things into your life, or else you begin to add in the wrong things without even realizing it. And then you get your life full. You get your life to where it's up to the brim and there's not room for anything else. But there's more important things that should be in there. And then you have to begin to remove things. And that's a painful process. Sometimes necessary, but not easy. Having that understanding, you have to have your focus right. That includes the bigger picture. That includes the things that really matter, but also taking care of yourself. if a fireman does not take precaution for their own safety, they're going to end up hurt or dead and then unable to help anyone else. And what good has that done? So the fireman knows, first I protect myself and then I help others. Not that I am only worried about myself, because I can no longer help others if that's all I do. But if I don't also take care of myself, how can I help others? So having that understanding as a man is also important. If you get burnt out and you're not giving it your all, you're limiting the good that you can do. You can be more effective and more efficient if you take care of yourself in proper terms and adequacies, in a way that is beneficial but not becoming the main thing. Not in a way that detracts from what is important. So learn to look at your life. Learn to understand there are some things when I focus on myself that is needed, that is necessary, that is important, but that's not all there is to it. I also have to learn to look at others, at the big picture, at what God is asking of me and requiring of me. Make the main things the main things. Keep them at the top of the list. Make them the main priority. But don't forget to improve, to learn, to grow in the process. And sometimes that will happen naturally as you do what you need to do, as you fulfill your obligations, as you take care of others around you, as you look at the big picture. There are ways that you will learn and that you will grow, but you still have to maintain your health. You still have to maintain your capabilities. You still have to maintain your resources so that you don't run out. Your funds are not unlimited. Your time is not unlimited. Your energy is not unlimited. Recognize that and treat it as such. So learn to find the balance between focusing on yourself and the bigger picture. Both are important. Both are required. Both are needed. But learn to balance them. I thank you for joining me today as I talk through this topic of the balance, and hoping to find that way to achieve the proper measure between where our focus needs to be, what we want it to be on. All of these things are important, but remember, you're not perfect. You will make mistakes, but when you stumble, when you fall flat on your face, you're only a failure if you quit, if you stop trying. Get up, keep going, keep trying. I promise you, you're not the first one. You won't be the last. We've all been there. But you've got this, because that's who you were made to be. You were made to be a man. You were made to be a provider, a protector, a place of stability for those around you. And you can do it. With God, you can be the man that you need to be. Keep on keeping on and becoming better men.